Hey everyone, this is ZeroCat here, bringing you another deck tech video. Today I'll be going over the Izzet Dragon deck for you guys. Hopefully you guys like this video. I got a few requests to do deck tech videos, so hopefully you guys like this. If you do, please let me know in the comments below as well, giving a like on those videos, so that way I know that you guys like them and I will continue to do so. So I'm going to go over the deck as well as my thoughts of the deck, and let's talk about some Magic, guys. So let's just go down the mana curve. Let's talk about the lands. Fabled Passage, enough said. This card is just basically a fetch land once you have 4 mana or 4 lands. It comes into play untapped. I think you guys know about it. It's been out for a while. Hall of the Storm Giants, one of the new addition to the cards. I think I have never used this card for its actual ability. I understand this card could be good late game. It becomes a 7/7 for 6 mana with the ward ability, which is I think really strong. But I don't know how I feel about that, because you know, if you're that far in the late game, the odds of them having, you know, 3 mana and then the one additional mana to kill it feels like they have it, but is what it is. Having a 7/7 though is pretty good though, so it's nice. Then you have some basic lands, islands, as well as some mountains. Then you have the dual land package. You have the 4 copies of the Pathway, the Steam Vents, and the Sulphur Falls. I think this is fine. You have 25 lands in total. Next is Opt on here. Enough said with that. Then you have the 1 copy of Treasure Map. This card is, it does a twofer in terms of fixing your scries as well as generating some more mana in terms of treasure, and we'll talk about it more with that. Silumgor Scorn is really strong in the specific dragon deck because it is a counter spell most of the time. If you do not have a dragon in your hand or on the battlefield, the opponent only has to pay 1 mana, so keep that in mind. Other than that, it's a really good surprise counter spell. Draconic Roar, also a really good card, especially when it first came out. It does 3 damage to a creature, and then if you control a dragon, it deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. So a little 2-for-1, as it were. Special Alliteration, one of the newer cards as well that's seen in Rise and Pioneer as well. Mind you, do not cast it on turn 2. Specifically, you want to cast it on turn 3 to basically control your next few draws or just accelerate you a little bit. Most of the time I use it for on turn 2 to also not play a land on turn 3. Sometimes you want to just Expressive Alliteration, put a really specific card in your hand, as well as then put a land in exile so that you can cast it. Then you have the 2 copies of Mystical Dispute, though I'm not sure about this. I think I would exchange it for something else, so we can talk about it later. 2 copies of Brazen Brower, a little tempo play here. I think this deck is kind of like a tempo deck, kind of in a way. It has the ability to bounce as well as having be a 3/1 flyer later on. Bone Crusher Giant, this deck is seen in like almost every format. I think Modern also plays it. 2 mana, does 2 damage with the Stomp, and as well as becoming a 4/3, and having the ability that whenever it's targeted, it deals 2 damage to the controller of that spell. Then you have 2 copies of Inger the Gods. This deck is a little on the mid range, so it does pretty bad against the aggro decks. So having a few copy board wipe is not bad. Beholden Multiverse. This card is actually, I'm not so sure about this card too. I understand what it's trying to do, but I think if you're playing with some Foretell cards, I think I would also play the Foretell card that lets you counterspell as well. That way your opponent kind of just, you know, give your opponent a little something. I think I might just take that out of the Mystical Dispute. You know, you never know. Because in that way your opponent knows like, oh, he's always going to draw cards. But if he had the counterspell, you could change it up. You have the 1 copy of Glorybringer. Enough said with this card too. This card first came out. This card is actually really good still. 4/4 with the Exert ability. I think Exert's a little weird in a sense that it doesn't untap, but it does kill something on the way in, and it does have haste. At the cost of it not untapping for 1 turn, it's not that bad. Then I think this is what the main part of this deck is. It's the more like this card is makes this deck go really, really good, is the Ghostband Dragon. Whenever it attacks or becomes a target of a spell, I create a treasure token. And moving forward, all treasure tokens have the ability, instead of sacrificing it, instead of getting 1 mana, you get 2 mana, but it has to be of 1 color. So it makes you able to play almost everything in the deck because of that ability. Then you have Stormbreath Dragon, which is a little odd in this deck, to be completely honest. I don't see a lot of crazy, like, white creatures that I should be aware some of, and the removal is kind of all over the place in Pioneer, so I guess they just need another dragon. Could have been like another Glorybringer, I don't know. You can change it up if you wanted to, but yeah, it's a 4/4 protection from white, flying haste with a monstrous ability of 7, where it deals damage to the player's equal to the number of cards in their hand. Then you have Inferno of the Storm Mountains, which it can't be countered flying haste 6/6 dragon. That if its power is anything, power ever gets become over 20, or is at 20, it deals 20 damage to something. Mind you, in this deck, because of Ghostband Dragon, the odds of you actually doing that is possible. That's only 7 treasures, guy. 7 treasures. So if you think about it, if you attack it for 6, cast it for 6 mana, and you have a Ghostband Dragon, and you have like 3 treasures, that's 6 plus the 6 treasures, which is 12, so you would need, you would just stick to 2 more, and you got it. And then 1 copy of Dictor Time, just for that, I'm not sure about that Dictor Time too. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about the sideboard cards here. Wow, you can't. There's so many sideboard cards here. So let's talk about it. Let's go down the line. So we have Aether Gust against the red-green decks. This card's really strong. 2 copies in the gate against the control matchups. Mystical Dispute also against the control matchups. Also against the spirit decks possibly as well. Mega Spray for removal. A Brave for also removal and artifact decks. The Cleansing Wildfire, I'm not so sure about this card, to be 100% honest. I think it's because of the rise of the Celestia Angels decks, and it's just that one chance to just kill that creature, that Mutavault. I think it's what it's in for. I think I'd probably put like 1 more copy if I'm being completely honest. That deck, the Celestia Angels deck, has written Rise, and it's just really hard for players to interact with that type of ability. They have Mizium Orders for extra removal, which I'm not sure about. I guess that's just really bad because it's 6 mana to do the board wipe, but it's 4 damage for a single target. It's, take it as it is, a grain of salt. There's a card behind me. It is an extra copy of Anger of the Gods. I think I have a foil and non-foil, which is why it's there in separate piles. Then I have 2 copies of Treasure Map. Just for the extra, I think it's mostly against the mid-range control decks because I think you really want to control your decks. You control your deck and your draws the longer the game goes. So let me quickly go over the deck and what I feel about it. I think this deck is fine and it is fun. Though in terms of power level and how good of a deck this is, I want to put it somewhere in the medium range. Definitely take it as a grain of salt. If you do like dragons and you want to play with it, definitely do. I think there's definitely potential in this deck. But yeah, I think I would have this geared more toward definitely want to make some minor adjustments to the deck and play it how you want it to play. I know there's a few other dragons in here that you can put Niv Mizzet in here as well. I think that's a really strong card. I think I'd probably prefer that versus the Inferno of Stormrounds. I think Niv Mizzet is just a little more stronger in terms of what it can do for the deck. And you can probably take out Stormbreath as well. Maybe put another Glory Bringer here. It's up to you, or what you fancy. And Mystical Dispute as well. I think Mystical Dispute and Brazen Borrower I think are the odd man cards that you have potential to just take out and adjust the way you want it to. Sideboard I think is also fine. I don't really see any major things with it. Maybe 1 less treasure map. I understand what they're trying to do with the treasure map, but I think I'd rather have an extra control matchups. You know what I mean? But that being said, I think the worst part about this deck in terms of it being able to keep up with most decks, I think Spirits might have a way to just be a little more might be your Kryptonite in this deck. Even though you have Mystical Dispute and in some ways a removal, I think the tempo that it just out tempos you. I think what it's trying to do is just a little more quicker. So I think I'd play knowing that. Other than that, I think the deck is fine. I have no really issues with it. I think it's a really fun deck and definitely give it a shot. I think that's really all I really have for this deck tech. So hopefully you guys like it. And as always, guys, oh my god, I lose my voice. Take care of yourself, love one another, and live free and game on. I will see you all next time, guys. Bye for now.